Okay, so sweeping the chrome, this little piece of music that I played at the beginning of this topic, chromaticism. So all it is some little passages of chromatic ideas. Okay, so we have one idea that starts on our 9th fret and it plays 9, 10, 11 and 12 and comes back again. So it ascends and then it descends. It starts on a downstroke, so we're not concerned so much with outside string picking for this piece of music because we are doing the sweep picking technique on arpeggios and we're also doing the little chromatic passages. So that's how it starts. On the C sharp, the 9th fret of the 1st string, and starts with a downstroke, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So it ends with a downstroke. When we change to the 2nd string, we go to the 10th fret of the 2nd string, which is A. So that's an upstroke. So the change from the 1st string to the 2nd string is actually inside string picking, and you can see that my pick is in between the strings. It's on the inside of these two strings. So that's called inside string picking, but it's only a very small amount of inside string picking. It's just really the change from the chromatic idea into the arpeggio, the sweep picking arpeggio. So we're doing an A major arpeggio, chromatic pattern, and an A major descending arpeggio. So going from the high A to E to C sharp to A. It ends on an upstroke because we've just done the sweep picking technique where we just sweep our up, 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 up. So the up, A, E, C sharp and A. All upstrokes. Now, of course, when you're doing sweep picking, the upstrokes are not individual strokes like that. It's just a continuous sweeping motion, like the name suggests. In classical guitar, when you do that with your fingernails, that's called rest stroke, because you're playing a string and you're actually resting. I'm going to play the 2nd string and I'm going to rest my pick on the 3rd string and not play the 3rd string. So I play the 2nd string and the 3rd string hasn't been played yet, but my pick is resting, pressing against the 3rd string, ready to play it. And that's really what sweep picking is. It's rest stroke. And there's another term in classical guitar, and it's called Apoyando, where you rest your finger. So that's what we're doing. We're sweeping in a constant motion, and we're not stopping. It's kind of like when you strum your guitar, when you just, slightly slower version of strumming, and obviously up and down. So we're doing chromatic passage, 4 notes, then we're doing the arpeggio, and now we're going to continue. We're going to continue a little pattern here that includes the major 7th, which is major 7th of A. Remember, this is an A major arpeggio. Think of it being in the key of A major. So in A major, the 7th degree is a major 7th. It's a G sharp. So we're on our 11th fret of our 5th string. And we're including that major 7th, and we're also including the major 6th, which is F sharp in the key of A major. So a lot of people think that when you play chromatic scales that they say, oh well, I'm too far out of the key, I don't want to go outside the key so much, and it's hard to improvise, and people have different reasons for not wanting to do chromatic ideas in their playing. Even though we've got a chromatic passage to open up this piece of music, those 4 notes, 3 of them are actually in the key. of A major. So we're playing an A major arpeggio. 3 of those notes are in the key of A major, the C sharp, the D, because the C sharp is the major third in A major, and the D is the perfect fourth, and the E is the perfect fifth. And the only note that we're actually outside of the key when we're playing this little chromatic idea is the E flat or D sharp, whichever way you want to look at it. Remember, you can call a sharp note by its flat enharmonic equivalent. So this is either a diminished fifth or an augmented fourth, the D sharp, but that's the only note that's outside of the key. And because it happens so fast, I mean, you hear this D sharp or E flat for such a small amount of time that it's hardly noticeable that you've gone outside the key. And that's the beauty of using chromatic scales. You can sometimes use them in fast little passages, and they bring more interest to the piece of music that you're playing, and at the same time it doesn't really conflict too much with the key that you're playing in, depending on how many of the notes are outside of the key. As I said, in this, there's only one note outside. So let me do the rest of this. So so far we've got, and then that was an upstroke, that last note, the A. Then when we play the G sharp, it's a downstroke, so we're just alternating now. And then an upstroke for the F sharp, which is a major 6, and then we come back to the major 7th with a downstroke, and then we do A again, the root note, with an upstroke, and then we do sweep picking with down, 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 up, down, up, down, up, down, up, 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 down, up, down, up, down, down, down. We actually finish on our second finger because the next part we actually change to the next little chromatic. So ending on our second finger on the A, and then we play the next little chromatic passage or pattern, and that's on our 7th fret. So the first one started on our 9th fret, C sharp. This next chromatic idea we play on our 7th fret, so on B, 7th fret of your first string. So that's the 7th fret, and the same thing as we did here, and even the same starting on a downstroke pattern, alternating, just alternate picking. And then we're doing the G major arpeggio, which is exactly the same as the A. We just move down 1, 2 frets. So very easy. Now this one we do go to the first string, and we do that pattern again, but we only ascend, we don't go back again, we just go. And then we use our the last note that we played, down, up, was our little finger on the 10th fret. Now we use that little finger and we go all the way up to our 15th fret, which is G. So and that's a downstroke. So we have this is the C major arpeggio. We're starting on the perfect fifth, which is G. So we're playing G with a downstroke, then E. That would be the major third in C major. We're doing that with an upstroke. And then the rest of the arpeggio, which is the root note C, the perfect fifth, G, again the perfect fifth, E, the major third, and C. So we've gone from A major to G major up to C major. Now when we do the C major, we're actually starting on the highest note first, and then we're descending. So the beginning of it, it's just the arpeggio itself. C major arpeggio, chromatic. Now that chromatic passage there has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We play the ninth, and then we come back to the eighth note that we played, and we bend up again to the ninth. So and that one starts on the E, on the 12th fret of the first string, that little chromatic section. And then we basically do the exact same thing again, but instead of a C major arpeggio, we're back to the A major arpeggio. So far we have this. Now we're doing some little patterns here, little chromatic patterns, and these ones are like three frets in a row. So we're starting at the 7th fret on the B of our first string, and we're starting with a downstroke. So down, up. So we're just ascending that first pattern of 3 notes, chromatic notes. And then we're going to the 9th fret on our 2nd string. Now, when you think about the 3rd note that we play, that 3rd note, which is a C sharp, and then we play the 2nd string, same fret, still the 9th fret, and that is a G sharp, and then we play the same fret again, so we've got those 3 notes all squished into the 1st fret, into the 9th fret. And then we have a C sharp on the 11th fret of the 4th string, and then we have an A on the 12th fret of the 5th string. So what is that? That is an A major 7th arpeggio, because we have an A root note, we have a major 3rd, which is the C sharp, we have the perfect 5th, which is the E, and we have the G sharp, which is the major 7th. And then we just have the C sharp again, and the C sharp we've already played here on the 4th string, it's just an octave higher, so the major 3rd again. Down, up, up. So a little bit of alternate picking, a little bit of sweep picking. So ascending on the chromatic pattern, arpeggio, descending, ascending on the arpeggio, and then descending on the chromatic. So the chromatic ascends first. Remember, 7th fret of the 1st string, that's a B. Now what did I do there? I went the descending of that chromatic, and then I went back to an arpeggio, which is the G major arpeggio. And that we've already played before, so second finger on the 8th fret, which is G, first finger on the 7th fret, which is D, third finger's on the 4th string, which is B, on the 9th fret, and the little finger is playing the 10th fret of the 5th string, that is a G. So, ascend the chromatic pattern, descend the A major 7, ascend the A major 7, descend the chromatic pattern, start on the descending the G major arpeggio. So now we stop on the second finger with the downstroke, and then we move to the 7th fret with our 3rd finger. So we're on our 2nd finger on our 2nd string on the 8th fret, which is G. We're going now to use our 3rd finger and put it on our 7th fret, so the one behind it, on our 1st string. Here. So we're moving from this G on the 2nd string to the B on the 7th fret. And both of them are downstrokes because it's the end of the sweep picking. So in this piece of music you'll notice that sometimes the sweep picking motion continues beyond the major arpeggio. So here we were doing the G major and we had down, 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 and then we do another down. Even though we're moving and we're changing to the chromatic, getting ready for the chromatic, we continue that downward motion. So there's 3 of them. Just go to the 1st string on the 3rd fret, G, and you just do the G chromatic where you're playing downstroke, down, up, down, just alternate picking. The root note again, the G on the 15th fret, and then going back to the note before it and bending up to it again. So that's the whole piece of music. It's a good idea to play it with something, a backing track or a drum loop or a metronome or whatever.